Where did the term riffing on roofing come from?
Well, I mean, the ability to riff is the ability to take something that's known and then just be able to extrapolate from it and to go further with it. So when you see roofing, no two roofs are ever the same. So you have to be able to understand like your basic details and how roofs are put together, and then be able to put it into a real world scenario. So you're riffing on a detail to get it, because no two base flashings are the same height. No two corners are going to be perfectly 90 degrees. In a perfect world, everything that you see on paper is what you see in the field. But we all know that is not the case. So the idea of riffing on roofing, first, it's alliteration. Everyone loves alliteration. You riff, roof. It sounds good. I think it's a good name. But I think the idea of being able to explain subtle details rather than just boilerplate out of the book, this is how it's done, so we can dive deeper into how things get done and why they're done that way.
Yeah, and the goal is to make roofing simple for the facilities manager. And that's who this is geared towards, because there's plenty of places, and I can go watch videos, I can go look at manufacturer spiels and everything else about like why your roofing system's the best. But the person that's the least educated, that should be the most educated, is the facilities manager that's got the problem, has the roof leaks, that has to make a decision with the limited funds that they have on which roof to buy. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that there's nothing out there for the facilities manager to allow them to make the right decision. And the goal here, when we say riffing on roofing, is we're going to talk about all the things that the roofing industry doesn't want you to know about. The fact that, hey, roofing is made in a factory and they produce rolls that the contractor has to glue together perfectly in a non-flat world. Yeah. Okay. Then there's different options. There's coatings, and there's single plies and plastics and rubbers and built up and 4 or 5 different kinds of that. And then also, how does a customer know, like, hey, can I just solve this with mastic or a repair product, or do I need to redo, tear off, leave in place? There's no real reference out there besides the contractor, besides the manufacturer that's selling it. And the problem is it's confusing.
It's extremely confusing, and the devil's in the details. And that's where, being able to expound upon the individual details. I mean, that's one area we could talk for months on individual details easily. We could spend a lot of time on paperwork, documentation, how to read a spec, so you kind of understand what you're getting. Because it's all stilted language that is designed around architects. And to be in my mind, it's designed to confuse owners so they don't bother looking at it.
Okay, so let's talk about that real quick before we even get into the intro of this. What is it? What do you mean it's designed to confuse owners?
Well, it's designed to confuse anybody who's not within the architecture industry.
Okay, why? Why would you say that it's intentionally designed to cause confusion?
No, I don't think it's intentionally designed to cause confusion. Maybe I'm not explaining this the right way. It's not that it uses what I call, it uses legalese. It's like, when you read any kind of legal document, they feel like they're intentionally confusing, so that you have to hire a lawyer to read it, or you have to hire an architect to decipher this, all of this documentation for you. That shouldn't be the case. What an owner sees in terms of what they're getting on their building should be in their language. It should be something that they can understand, basic. They shouldn't have to think about it.
And when we look at the roofing industry in general, you see the industry in business for one reason: to stay in business. Mm-hmm. In fact, most of the transactions that happen inside of the roofing industry have nothing to do with the owner. You have the manufacturer that makes the material, that sells their material to the contractor. The contractor chooses whichever is the cheapest. There may be a consultant involved. There may be an insurance company involved. And then ultimately that manufacturer's products go onto a building, but it's got to go through a contractor. There's favoritism. There's kickbacks. There's a whole bunch of things, but everybody makes a profit in the process, and they make millions or if not billions of dollars. And the only person that's left at the end of it with roof leaks is the owner. And when we think about it, the only thing that's left over when a contractor leaves is the material that's left on the building. So you have labor, overhead, profit, and taxes, and a couple other ancillaries that go into a project, and the only thing that's left is the material. Mm-hmm. And then we see the material in the industry becoming easier and easier to install, but also being thinner and weaker and more fragile that are going onto a roof. So let's go back. We go back to the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. We had a 4 or a 5 ply built up roof that had layers of asphalt in between all those separate layers.
That's a long time.
Multiple layers of redundancy, and now we're down to a single ply that's less than the thickness of a dime or a quarter. Mm-hmm. So the goal of this is to educate and make the facilities manager more educated on arguably the most costly expense that they're ever going to put into their buildings. Or if they manage a campus in the sense of an institution, they're going to manage 50, 60, or maybe more than 100 buildings. How do we make life, and how can the industry make life simple for the end user?
Well, I think it starts with one word that you used before in talking about all that, and that's transaction. The roofing industry is a transactional business. It needs to be a relational business. It needs to be, when you put a warranty for an extended period of time, the expectation of the owner is that that's not a transaction, that's a relationship. And if you're not going to honor that half of the relationship as the manufacturer, now it becomes nothing but a transaction. For the manufacturers that are selling that first roof, you now have an uphill battle to try to get that next roof out of them, because their expectation was a relationship, somebody who's going to be there for them. But you handed them a roof, walked away, and said goodbye. That needs to change. That needs to change wholesale across a lot of industries, not just roofing. But we're talking about roofing here. So, keeping it on topic, we need to start thinking about the needs of the owner, filling the needs of the owner, not jamming a solution down their throat that may or may not be correct, but it's in my sales kit. So this is what I'm going to give them.
Correct, because a transactional relationship with a salesman, the salesman's going to fit your unique solution into something that's on their line card in order to sell you. Yep. Now, if I'm a sales guy and I have access to built up single ply coating and mastic, okay, if you can't afford or you don't like single ply, guess what? I can sell you built up. Or if you don't need that, I'm going to sell you this, or I'm going to sell you this. But I've never met a sales guy or a roofer in my entire life that didn't have a solution to your problem. Didn't matter what the cost was. But most of the industry, from the manufacturer that makes the material to the contractor to the consultant and whatnot, is going to share literature with a customer with the intention of, this has got a 30, 40, whatever warranty to it, but it's all based on trust. It's all the illusion. It's all based on the illusion of trust. Trust me, I've been in business for 20 years. I'm doing you the best service, and what we're going to do is going to work. And that's all of the transaction is based on the word trust.
Not an illusion, though. Trust is real. Trust is everywhere around us.
Could be.
But trust is relational, not transactional. If you are in a transactional business, gaining trust is nigh impossible.
But then there's the thing of like the idea of if it's a transactional relationship and I'm dealing with a sales guy. Now, a facilities manager doesn't naturally say, hey, I want a completely unbiased opinion. I'm going to go do my own research, and I'm going to get a PhD in understanding why roofing works, why roofing fails, why roof leaks before I make this $100,000 multi-million-dollar decision on what roof to buy. So it's based on trusting the sales guy, which has its own interior motives to it. And for the most part, I would argue that most customers are underwhelmed or that their expectations weren't met when the contractor leaves.
Well, how much information does an owner actually need to know if they're going to be buying a roof that's going to outlast their career?
Well, let's talk about warranties real quick, and let's talk about the fact that how customers buy roofs. Now, I don't know many customers or many people that have roof leaks that buy based on how thick the roof is, how strong the roof is, how flexible the roof is, what the actual longevity is naturally. The number one thing they come up with is how much does it cost and how long is the warranty?
It's all that matters.
Okay. No, it's not all that matters.
To an owner, sure it is.
Well, on the surface, if you don't know the right questions to ask, you're going to ask how long is it going to last and how much does it cost?
Well, but I'm talking about the sales process. In terms of the sales process to them.
Correct.
The two most important things.
Okay, but what's the easiest way for a customer when it comes to roofing to get burnt? It's either to buy it based on the warranty, thinking what the salesman offers is going to work based on what the literature says, which warranties have exclusions in them, and they're not something that you buy based on. They're a legal contract that you need to read and understand what's excluded and what's covered and what's not. And the lowest cost typically becomes the most expensive over time.
Oh, of course it does.
So two things that a building owner must get away from is quit buying based on warranty and quit buying based on cost. Educate yourself to what is the most valuable thing that I can do for this roof that's going to last the longest, and understand that valuable thing that's the perfect mix of cost versus what you get is going to cost more money than the cheap roof. And it just so happens that the warranty that you should buy should be inherent to the product based on what you've seen in real life of the roofs that you've looked at, versus just buying a new product based on a piece of paper that says it's going to last this long.
Well, sure. And, let's talk about, as we talk about warranties, let's talk about like the extended warranties that you could get from the big box stores. You can get an extended warranty on anything. I was asked to buy an extended warranty on a non-motorized push mower. A fully mechanical push mower. What can possibly break? And they wanted to sell me an extended warranty that was almost as expensive as that mower was.
Did you buy it?
Of course not.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If it was a brand new battery powered 40 volt, 80 volt mower from a commercially available box store that had a really cool warranty to it, but that warranty cost half the cost of that new mower, but because it's mechanical, because it's new, because it has technology, would you buy that extended warranty on that new mower?
No. And here's why. I don't believe that I should have to pay for it.
Okay, but do you believe that new mower with the great technology in it that maybe made of plastic instead of metal, that has the newest, latest, greatest whiz-bang features to it, is going to last as long as your push mower?
No.
Okay. And there's where the industry is when it comes to providing products that last versus products that line the salesman and the manufacturer's pocket. Right. Because everybody's in business to stay in business. And a roofing contractor will make their money on tearing off your roof and putting on a new roof to begin with. They're going to make money year after year on doing annual maintenance. They're going to make money on consulting and fixing roof leaks. And they're going to make money on ripping that roof off and redoing it again in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The contractors in business to do one thing: continue to make money on you over and over and over and over again. But the manufacturer's kind of in the same boat. They make widgets and rolls and stuff for roofs that contractors install. So their goal is to be able to sell you material over and over and over and over again. Now remember, I have that line card. I got a built-up roof, I got a single-ply roof, I got coating, and I got mastic. Okay, but that manufacturer, that sales rep, has to make a living based on making a commission. Okay, so he's going to sell you that built-up roof, and then when that built-up roof fails, he's going to sell you mastic in order to fix it. And then once the surface wears away on it, he's going to sell you coating. And then once he's got that coating there, say you could put a second roof on this, and I'll put the single-ply on it. Now we've gone full circle in like a clover leaf around that manufacturer's line card. And as long as that guy shows up and gives you some spiel as to why you need this, they're going to force the contractor to sell it to you, and you buy it.
Yeah. And now, because most roofs out there have more than one roof type. They're going to have a flat roof, but they're probably going to have some metal or shingle or tile awnings. And whomever you talk to is likely going to tell you, especially as a manufacturer, well, you need to talk to somebody else about that, rather than providing a solution to the actual problem. And that's that the roofs are in bad shape and need to be fixed. Being able to look at not just the one roof that I sell, but all of them, and say, I can put this one together, but I'm going to give you recommendations on the other. You're not even going to get recommendations. You're not even going to get anything other than, you're going to need to call somebody in on that because I don't know anything about that. And that's the sad part about the industry as a whole, is the glorious lack. It's a vacuum of knowledge that we're facing right now.
And I would argue that the knowledge doesn't exist anymore, because all of the gray hair is dyed.
The old guard is passing.
That actually understood why roofs leak. And now you're looking at people that want somebody that's a 25-year-old kid that wants to tell you why every other roof on the planet is bad and why theirs is great. And I'm like, based on what experience?
Right. From one manufacturer that they've been installing for however 5-6 years.
Or it's from a sales guy that's never installed a roof in their entire life, but they've went through 4 weeks of intense training put on by that manufacturer.
Exactly.
And now they're the consultants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the days of understanding why roofs function, how roofs drain, why roofs leak, and what the functional intention and purpose of a roof actually is.
Roof 101.
Those days
Think like a raindrop.
Those days are gone.
Yeah.
Like, I would argue that even the people that call themselves professional roof consultants are anything but what they really are is nothing more than quote unquote independent sales reps. And I know nobody in this industry that's completely unbiased.
No,
even me.
Yeah, no, you have to accept that bias is there. You just have to be genuine and honest with that bias. And you as an owner, you need to understand that, yes, you are getting bias. But when we talk about trust and transactional, when you gather information, you can choose to believe it or not believe it. Whether you read it on the internet, whether you saw it in the paper, whether it was on the news, you can choose whether to believe it or not. And as a roofing professional comes to your door, you can choose to believe it or not. And this is why everyone is always, when you're going to get a roof put on your house, get 5 bids and, throw out the high, throw out the low, and choose who you believe in from those 3. And this is, this is outside of public bid stuff. This is kind of just psychological, how you think about trusting the people that are giving you information, because there's a lot of bad information out there, but there's also a lot of good information. You just have to know where to.
The hard part is to be able to decipher the two. Yeah. Look, I believe that everybody should be given the benefit of the doubt initially to present new ideas and present their line card, present their knowledge, so on and so forth. Okay, but everything that we do, our customers should do, or the end user should do, is trust and verify. Okay. Hey, I believe that what you're saying may work for my roof, but I want to go see some roofs. So let's just qualify that.
Verify part is important.
I want to go look at roofs. I want to talk to customers. I want to talk to the customers that may have had a bad experience with you and understand why. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons why we crush it, is because we say, hey, I'm going to show you something that you've probably never seen before, and it's probably going to blow your mind, because it has since 1987 done the exact same thing for thousands of people just like you, but don't take our word for it. Right. I want you to go out and I want you to come to trade shows. I want you to talk to people that have it. I want to go show you roofs, and I want you to see for yourself.
I would love to create an environment where people could share these stories. And that's kind of the impetus for this, is I would love to get some people who've had good experiences, some people who have had bad experiences, and how it was handled. And and to give people some genuine, honest, real knowledge that they can take to the bank.
Well, and the best way to do that is to put them all in a room, take 100 people, 100 facilities managers, put them all in a room and say, let's just bring up the topic of roofing, and then watch everybody's happy face go, fuck.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have a couple, and this isn't a WeatherWeld thing, but I'm going to talk about why we do what we do and why we have the culture that we do and why we have the belief system that we do, is because it's not just about the roof. It's about everything else. Like, we're out there solving and tracking roof leaks for free for customers that said, hey, we got a roof leak. And then we go out there and water test the thing for days. Hey, it ain't a roof leak. We can't get the roof to leak, but we're still out there because it's something. It's just not the roof. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, 50 hours later of being on that job for having a contractor and us there, we still haven't figured it out, but we're going to figure it out free of charge for the customer.
We also still haven't stopped. You know, that's the thing is, the customer understands. I mean, some roof leaks, I could go on for days about some of the most difficult roof leaks that I've ever had to chase. And I think down the road might be a fun topic to play with is, you know, what's the worst roof leak? What's the worst this? What's the best?
I think we do a section of this where we just throw a photo up on the screen. And then we diagnose the photo.
Yeah. The only thing I don't want to do is badmouth. What I don't want to be is that the influencers that all they do is put, you know, this guy says he has 25 years and all of a sudden he's doing this. Well, you know what? I don't want to go down that road.
That's not the road we're going to go down. But what we will do is we will put real photos of real roofs that have real issues, and we're going to diagnose them live.
Right.
Okay. And the goal is to be able to create value and to teach a facilities manager how to look the same way that we're looking at it. Because I haven't been around for 70 years doing this, but like you, I've been doing this since I was 12 years old. There's probably not a roof leak that I've seen, or a building leak that exists out there that I haven't seen or that you haven't seen that we're able to figure out a solution for. Most of the time, it's not a roof leak. No. Most of the time, it's other stuff. It's a drain. It's a piece of equipment. It's a splash leak. It's a pipe. It's a coping. It's the outside scupper of a wall. It's an internal drain pipe leak.
So it's funny because
this is Bob. I'm Mike, and this is Riffing on Roofing. Creative problem solving is a really fun way to actually end this one. There is no one size fits all solution to any problem that exists on the planet. WeatherWeld is not the right solution for every roof. Okay, case in point. Like, there's plenty of roofs that we say no to because we're not the right solution. It just so happens that for most buildings that facilities managers have in public institutions, it just so happens that WeatherWeld might be the perfect fit because it might have been designed that way. Mm-hmm. But no, there is no perfect solution. There is no one size fits all. And that's the reason why the roll-based industry that makes rolls of material in a factory that ships it to the job site that the contractor seams or glues together doesn't really work out really well for the long term, especially with synthetic materials that don't work. And I'm not bashing on any manufacturer. I'm just talking about where the industry is.
Oh, you don't have to bash on a manufacturer to bash on the technology. The whole concept of a single ply roof is flawed from the start because, look, the roofs, the structures that we build on these buildings are designed to hold 500 times the weight of that single ply roof. So why are you worrying about the weight of the roof that's going on it?
And I would argue that while it's a sales point, I don't believe that anybody buys a roof based on, besides marketing, that understands how buildings function, that would ever buy a lightweight roof. Yeah. Okay. Because if I care about my roof lasting, I'm going to put as much material, because I'm going to argue the fact that thickness matters. That the more mill thickness that I can leave on a roof when the contractor leaves of whatever material, theoretically, the longer it's going to last.
What's the benefit to the owner of a lightweight roof?
because the industry is making lighter weight materials that they can ship more of on a truck, that the contractor can install more of per day, and make more money on it by installing a lightweight roof versus a heavier roof.
But you still didn't answer the question.
I know I didn't answer your question because you asked I'm answering it the way that the roofing industry thinks, and I'm not answering it the way that the customer thinks, because I've never met a customer that wanted to pay more, that wanted to pay for less material. Okay, I don't want to go pay for a lighter weight pickup truck. As much as wants to say, oh, this new has an aluminum body, I want a metal freaking truck.
Why do we want thicker shingles and thinner flat roofs? That is completely opposite the way that it should be.
Correct. And anybody that understands roofing understands that the thicker it is, the better it is.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no way for me to give you WeatherWeld at the thickness of a dime and have it work. Okay, there's no way for a manufacturer to make single ply the thickness of a dime that's made of synthetic plastic and have it last out in the sun. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, so when I was at the IBEC conference a couple of weeks ago, I did get word that the manufacturers were going back to what I remember as the biggest joke of the company that I used to work for. Triposit.
Is this? Are we just making up names now?
3-ply in hot with a fleece back TPO on top.
Wait. So we're going back to built up? Wait, are we going back to built up?
Triposit. It's not built up. It's triposit.
Oh no. This is masking the idea that a single ply roof actually works. So I'm putting multiple layers of asphalt set in plies that has been proven for the last 100 years. And now, just because I need to make new branding for it, now I'm putting a synthetic on top of it.
You know what the fleece back is? It's a really fucking expensive coating.
Hang on. No, it's a terrible idea. Like, wait a minute. I'm going to build a perfectly good built up roof, and then I'm going to screw it up by putting a piece of plastic on top of it.
Yep.
Okay. And what benefit does that do for the building owner? Because the reason you got to put 2 plies of built up down first is in order to get the roof watertight. And now I'm putting on a synthetic on the top of it that now I have to heat weld, that nothing sticks to, that's fragile, that now I have to poke hole. Now when I poke holes in the roof, now I have to use acetone and a hairdryer to glue it together.
In fact, even if you didn't weld those seams, it would still be watertight because it's the roof underneath.
I'm really sad that you told me that. I'm really proud of the marketing and the advertising, but it just goes to show exactly what I and you have been saying for a long time. The built-up roof that was outlawed from Prop 65 and kind of went by the wayside in the 1990s is now making a resurgence and coming back, because everything that the roofing industry promised when it comes to coatings and single plies and TPOs and TPAs and TPZs and TPFs and whatever the new KEE and whatever
CSP, don't forget that one.
Whatever new name on it, or whatever the new Hypalon or the new
EIEIO.
Whatever. Okay, guess what? What you just told me that's coming true is turning out to be true. And it just so happens everything in life comes in 25-year increments, quarter of a century increments. Okay, it takes 25 years for the facilities managers to come into the market, retire, have a new breed that has to go reinvent the wheel, that now starts and go do all the new whiz bang shit, and then they go back to what's worked in the past. And now we're going back to putting asphalt on roofs and multiple plies and multiple layers of redundancy. And whoever their marketing team is like, we got to introduce this new fleece back, whatever, into the top of it. You just screwed up a perfectly good built up roof. Okay. Cause I can take a real built up roof with a real cap sheet on it, and I can take that and now I can repair it infinitely.
You can't recoat it either.
Not when I got single ply on top of it.
Now you just eliminate. Now, once that roof is done, the whole thing's got to come up and get landfilled.
Well, not only that, but now I can't remove, because it's fleece back. Now I can't pull the single ply off and put something down to the built-up roof.
That's my point.
Okay, and there's the next question. The roofing industry is creating environmental disasters when they put down a roof that has to be removed and thrown into a landfill. Mm-hmm. Do you know how many roofs that WeatherWeld's installed that have had to go to a landfill?
None.
Until there's been 2 buildings that I know of that have been torn down. Okay, one of them was for an Air Force base, and the building is physically demolished, and the other one was a school building that was demolished in order to rebuild a bigger school.
So the whole building was demolished.
The whole building was demolished. I don't know of a single WeatherWeld roof that has been torn off and thrown away and went into the landfill. Because our philosophy is that you should never have to tear off your roof and throw it away again.
Could you recycle WeatherWeld into road?
You can. It like single ply, like anything else. There is no commercially viable recyclability program that makes feasible, logical sense to take the cost of tearing off a roof of any kind, whether you unscrew and roll up single ply and you cart that off to a landfill, or whether you cut WeatherWeld with the roof cutter and you put it into perfect 4x8 sheets and you take it to a recycler. Can it be done? Yes. Is there technical processes to do it? Yes. Is it worth the environmental and the cost in order to do it?
Probably
no.
not. Yeah.
But here's the next best thing that you can do. You can create an environmentally friendly product that has no VOCs, that has no real negative effects that we know of, that's installed, that's safe for workers, that's designed to stay on a building. Because if I can prolong removing that roof for the lifetime of the building, that the only time the roof has to come off is you have once you WeatherWeld your roof, you have one expense, and that's when you tear the building down and you throw it away. Yep. That's it. But every other roof is designed to be, now that we have, I take that back. Now that we have single ply roofs that are spray glued to existing roofs that you can't get them off, or peel and sticks is a whole different story. But now they're forcing tear offs. It's almost like the roofing industry. And that's like a self-fulfilling prophecy that the roofing industry is doing their full circle of the fact of we make products, the contractor installs them, we sell the repair products for it, and then we tear the roof off completely now, and now we throw it away, and then they got to start all over again. And the only person that loses is the building owner. The problem is it's everywhere. Now we're gluing thin single plies to built-up roofs. Okay, now we're taking silicone coating, and what we don't realize, and the industry knows this, contractors know this, the only people that don't know it is a facilities manager until it's too late, that once you take a roof that's already damaged, that's already weak, that already needs to be replaced and have a permanent solution, but now you roll or spray silicone coating on the thing, and now I've created an environmental disaster because the only thing that I can fix the roof with is weak silicone coating. Okay, but now once I put silicone coating or urethane or whatever on this roof, now I can't do anything with it. Now I can't WeatherWeld it. Now I can't put a real roof on top of it and have it act as one layer. Now I got to tear that whole roof off and throw it away. So I would argue that billions of dollars are being wasted and thrown away, and it's billions of dollars that are taken out of the economy or put back in the economy, whatever way you want to say it, because manufacturers are making products that they know that there's no actual life cycle value to it once they install it. Yep. And if that was the case, we wouldn't be installing silicone, we wouldn't be installing urethane, we wouldn't be installing single plies on a roof, we'd be looking at permanent solutions. But the industry exists for the manufacturers to make rolls in a factory that the contractor glues together, and then they make repair products over and over and over again at whose expense?
So
the building owner.
No, absolutely. And I almost feel like maybe we just as an industry, we went too far. We overplayed it because, look, built up roofs started with rolls made in a factory, organic felts became fiberglass felts, became polyester felts, became modified bituminous. Sure. Mod bit was actually a decent product when it was done correctly, because all of the asphalt flooded the seams. It wasn't a hot air welded after the fact kind of
minimum of 4 layers of redundancy.
Exactly. Well, I mean, no, mod bit you could go as few as 2. You could have a base sheet and a cap on a low end, but usually you'd see a 20-30 system.
But I have layers of strength and redundancy that are saturated with actual waterproofing in between.
And they started making those mod bit rolls thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. And
to the point where
now they're saying, wow, why are we even we're using less asphalt and more butyl.
Yeah. And I don't hate butyl.
Nothing wrong with butyl. But it doesn't
last worth a dart against the sun.
Right.
Like it's designed to be sticky.
Right. So, and elastic and form and both And not even like, because you got two types. You've got the butyl base, the SBS, and then you got the polypropylenes, the APP. APP,
Which is a whole nother.
APP is it was easy, but it's junk.
Look, if it's cheap and it's simple for the contractor to install, where they can do 12% more. Yeah, let's light buildings on fire in the process.
That's why New York got rid of them.
Well, exactly, but now you can't get a real built-up roof because we still have air quality issues.
Right.
Okay, so let's create some real value for the customer as we end this. And every time that we end this thing, we're going to create some real value. That if there's one clip that's cut out of this that a customer or an end user or a facilities manager can take to the bank, is what can they do in order to make roofing better, to last longer, to save money, and to solve their problem. Number one, learn to think like water. Okay. What else? What's number two? What do you think?
Be willing to do your due diligence.
Yep. Thickness matters. The thicker what you can put on your roof when the contractor leaves, the thicker the roof, whether it has seams or not, the longer it's going to last. Because you're in a war against the sun. You're in a war against building movement. And typically things that are thicker are more robust. They have more mill thickness. Mill thickness means wearability against UV. Okay. And then the next thing is that the roof has to be as seamless as humanly possible, whether it's a repair or whether it's a full roof system.
The devil's in the details, and the more holes you put in the roof, the worse off you're going to be. Base flashing heights matter, because, this might see. If you get a clogged drain, you need a backup. That's a redundancy of your drainage, is the ability for your roof to handle that amount of water until that drain can be.
So the roof is a redundancy for drainage.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the key function of a roof is to take water to keep it out of the building, to funnel it to the drains and get it off the roof as fast as possible, and to be able to provide that type of protection for the longest life possible.
Bingo.
And if we can do that with a product that's going to last for the life of your building, that's designed intentionally, that's designed right from the beginning, that's probably the right choice. Now, one of the things to end this that makes the most sense is to, if it doesn't seem like it makes sense, it doesn't. Which means that thin single plies and whatnot that look great on a piece of paper and they look great on a brochure, but when you see a physical sample of it, you're like, this kind of looks like the same plastic that my kids' play toys are out of.
If it looks too good to be true,
and my patio awning doesn't last more than 5 years, you probably
ever busted through a chair?
You should probably take that as a clue.
You ever busted through a PVC chair?
Everybody has. There's nothing synthetic that I know about that's designed to last for more than 5 years.
When you're talking about sunlight, absolutely. I mean, there's synthetics that'll work great underground in
because
in a basement.
They're protected by dirt.
But UV rays are,
UV is the UV and movement is the killer of roofs.
Yeah.
It's the number one way to take something that's designed to last and take it to the end of eternity and have to throw it away.
Yep.
Okay. And also, the thinner that you buy and the more synthetic that you buy and the more seams that you have, the faster that you're going to have to redo that roof, repair it, or whatnot. And the goal is to be able to get a customer to be able to solve his roof leaks, which solves his problem at an economical price that they can see that they can afford, and get them to understand that the decisions that they make now with the limited resources and the funding that they have dictate whether their future is more expensive, less expensive, with more or less hassle, based on the simple decisions that they make now. And then once I start to describe the difference in between being strong first and then stretch versus stretch first and then strong. Mm-hmm. And once we get people to understand the difference and be like, hey, stretch first and then become strong is not a viable solution. Right. Okay, that roof has to be strong enough to withstand to begin with, and then flex once you start to flex it, because that's how buildings move and buildings work. Uh-huh. But anybody that takes their sample and flexes it around and moves it around, you have no idea what you're actually doing, and maybe you're just taught that as a sales tool against something that's strong and solid.
Yeah, because it sounds good.
Because roofs must be strong and solid. Okay, the reason why the built-up roof is coming back is because WeatherWeld can't go do every roof in the world, nor can customers afford it. Okay, But built-up roofs are coming back because everything that the industry's tried, and I'm going to say everything that the industry's tried for the last 25 years
hasn't worked.
All right. And that's riffing on roofing.